Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. From the moment we first looked up at the night sky, humanity has been captivated by the question, are we alone?
It's fundamental, isn't it?
Absolutely. For millennia, we've spun tales of gods descending from the heavens, monsters lurking in distant stars, and filled our science fiction with every conceivable form of alien life.
And sometimes those lines blur.
They really do. But today, we're not just speculating or escaping into fantasy. We're diving deep into something that has shifted, from the realm of fringe theory into a space of serious scientific and governmental discussion.
Unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP.
Exactly. Formerly known to many as UFOs. And as we navigate this often confusing landscape, we'll even explore some of the extraordinary claims of distinct alien races and human encounters that have become, well, an undeniable part of our collective narrative.
What's truly compelling here is how these disparate sources, you've got rigorous book reviews looking at scientific perspectives on one hand,
Right, like the one we'll be digging into.
and then these lively, often speculative discussions from online communities on the other hand, how they converge on fundamental questions.
Questions about what exactly?
About perception, about the nature of evidence, and really about human psychology itself when we're confronted with something unknown.
So our mission today, what is it?
It's to help you cut through the noise, to examine the arguments and observations from all sides, and to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from this incredibly rich material.
And crucially, we're not here to take sides.
Absolutely not. We're not endorsing any particular viewpoint. We want to help you understand not just what is being claimed, but crucially, why these claims persist with such fervor.
And how they challenge our understanding of reality, our science, our place in the cosmos. So, as we embark on this particular deep dive, we'll be pulling insights from a fascinating collection of source material. We have a detailed book review exploring a more scientific perspective on UFOs, specifically focusing on Cohen Vermeiren's work, UFOs Bestaan Gewoon, which roughly translates to UFOs Just Exist.
A pretty direct title.
It is. And then we'll jump into some lively discussions from online communities, specifically a Reddit thread that dissects alleged alien races and human encounters, drawing from an AI-generated compilation.
The AI angle, that adds another layer.
It really does. You might be surprised by the unexpected threads connecting these seemingly disparate discussions. The big questions we're grappling with today are fundamental, aren't they?
Absolutely. Are we being visited?
Mhm.
What do people claim these visitors are like? What are their supposed motivations?
And maybe the biggest question of all, why, despite decades of discussion, countless alleged sightings, and even increasing governmental acknowledgement, is it still so incredibly hard for us to agree on the answers?
That's the core puzzle, really.
Okay, let's begin by unpacking the very language we use when talking about these phenomena, because that's where some genuinely significant shifts have occurred.
Yeah, the terminology matters.
For a long time, the dominant term was UFO, unidentified flying object. But increasingly, especially in official reports from entities like the Pentagon, you now consistently hear UAP.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Exactly. And this shift isn't just semantics. It's quite telling, I think.
How so?
Well, the original term, unidentified flying object, was actually coined by the astronomer J. Allen Hynek. Now, Hynek's story is itself a fascinating deep dive.
He was involved with Project Blue Book, right? The Air Force investigations.
That's him. He started his career as a fervent skeptic, famously attributing many early sightings to mundane explanations like, swamp gas.
The classic debunker explanation.
Pretty much. Yet, over time, as he delved deeper into Blue Book and reviewed thousands of cases, Hynek actually evolved quite dramatically. He transitioned from a debunker into a proponent of the phenomenon, eventually arguing that some percentage of UFO reports remain genuinely unexplained and deserved serious scientific inquiry.
So he changed his mind based on the evidence he saw.
That's the narrative, although some later reevaluations suggest he might have become more skeptical again towards the very end, maybe considering UFOs more like a space-age myth.
Interesting. So even his perspective wasn't static.
No, but his extensive work and that initial shift in perspective during the height of the investigations really highlight the profound impact these sightings had, even on trained scientific minds.
And that evolution in terminology from object to phenomenon, that's truly crucial.
Quite crucial.
Because UAP is broader, it's more neutral, and you could argue it's a more honest term. It acknowledges that something is being observed in our airspace, something we can't immediately identify or explain without jumping ahead.
Without assuming it's a physical object, or necessarily flying in a conventional sense.
Exactly. Calling it a flying object implies a manufactured craft, which is a significant leap. And extraterrestrial is, of course, the ultimate conclusion that requires immense proof.
So UAP strips away some of that baggage.
It tries to. It removes some of the sensationalism and the implicit assumptions, allowing for a hopefully more objective investigation. This raises a really important question for anyone trying to understand this topic. What exactly is being observed in these reports?
And what makes them unidentified?
Right. What are the specific, often perplexing characteristics that consistently make these phenomena unidentified for so many people across so many diverse and frankly credible reports? It's about describing the observation itself first.
Okay, so let's look at those reported characteristics, because this is where the observations get truly intriguing, especially when we consider accounts from military and government sources. These seem to carry a different kind of weight, don't they?
They often do, given the training of the observers and the potential for corroborating sensor data.
Memos unearthed from historical records, from figures like General Twining, the FBI, USAF intelligence, Chadwell, they describe phenomena with very specific attributes.
Like what, for instance?
They talk about metallic or light-reflecting surfaces, indicating solid structures. They mention well-kept formation flights.
Formation flights, suggesting intelligent control, coordination.
Exactly, not just random movements. The objects are often described as circular or elliptical in shape, flat on bottom and domed on top. That classic saucer-like appearance we mentioned.
The quintessential UFO shape, really.
But what really captures attention, I think, are the reports of their incredible performance envelopes. Extreme rates of climb, maneuverability, and action, which must be considered evasive.
Evasive maneuvers, meaning they react to being detected or approached?
That's the implication.
Yeah.
We're talking about tremendous speed, some estimates putting it as high as 27,000 miles per hour.
27,000, that's astounding.
To put that in perspective, that's almost Mach 35, 35 times the speed of sound. A velocity that would instantly incinerate any known conventional aircraft in our atmosphere.
Or just rip it apart from the G-forces alone. Nothing we build can do that.
And these objects are seen at great altitudes, often near major U.S. defense installations, which is another recurring theme.
Near sensitive sites, yes. That always raises eyebrows.
And crucially, these observers often conclude they are not attributable to natural phenomena or known types of aerial vehicles.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these reported characteristics, those extreme speeds, the instantaneous changes in direction that seem to defy inertia, the reported lack of sonic booms or significant heat signatures, they present a profound challenge.
A challenge to what? Our physics, our technology.
Both. To our current understanding of physics, and certainly to known terrestrial technology, it inevitably leads to attempts to explain the seemingly unexplainable.
Like trying to fit it into some kind of scientific framework, even if it's speculative.
Exactly. Take someone like Paul Arhill. He was a respected aeronautical engineer, worked for NASA for years.
Okay, what did he propose?
In his book, Unconventional Flying Objects, A Scientific Analysis, Hill bravely tried to provide a scientific basis for these observations. One of our sources notes he showed that with just one fundamental assumption.
Just one. What was it?
That these UAPs can somehow generate a highly localized force field, a field that acts as a repulsive force on mass, essentially pushing air or even space-time itself away from them.
A force field. Sounds like science fiction.
It does, but stick with the logic for a second. If you accept that premise, Hill argued, you could theoretically explain almost all the observed flight behaviors.
Like what? The G-forces.
Yes. Accelerations in the order of 100 grams wouldn't harm occupants because the force field envelops the craft and everything inside, distributing the G-forces evenly. No squashing.
Okay, and the speed. No burning up.
Right. Speeds of, say, 10,000 kilometers per hour wouldn't cause the craft to burn up or create a sonic boom because it effectively moves through a kind of pressure bubble or compression-free zone. It bypasses the extreme heat and drag.
So it pushes the atmosphere out of the way before it hits it.
That's the essence of the idea. Now, this force field hypothesis is absolutely speculative. It relies on that huge initial assumption. But it represents a remarkable effort to reconcile the observations with some kind of scientific framework.
Trying to bring it into theoretical physics rather than just dismissing it.
Precisely. An attempt, however speculative, to bridge that gap.
And it gets even more specific and, frankly, quite chilling sometimes. Our sources highlight claims, like those from Robert Hastings discussed in Vermeeren's book, about UAP sightings near nuclear installations.
Ah, yes, the nuclear connection. That's a persistent theme.
And there are serious allegations that these objects don't just observe, they sometimes even interfere with weapon systems, going so far as to temporarily disable nuclear missile silos.
That is deeply concerning, if true. The ability to potentially neutralize a nation's nuclear deterrent.
Imagine the terror, the sheer strategic implications if an unknown non-terrestrial craft could just switch off our most powerful weapons.
It moves beyond just strange lights. It becomes a potential national security issue at the highest level.
The fact that these reports persist from credible military personnel adds a layer of undeniable gravity to the discussion, doesn't it?
It certainly makes it harder to dismiss out of hand. Which brings us to a fundamental challenge, a crucial paradox within this field.
Which is?
If these observations are so striking, if they include detailed accounts, radar tracking, even potential technical interactions like disabling systems, why isn't there widespread scientific consensus? Why no definitive, undeniable proof you can take to the lab?
Yeah, where's the smoking gun? The piece of wreckage everyone agrees on.
Exactly. As our sources repeatedly emphasize, UFO research is truly rough terrain. The phenomena themselves are uncontrollable and practically intangible.
Meaning you can't just summon one for study.
Right, you cannot go to the lab and reproduce a UFO incident and analyze it under controlled conditions, like you would a chemical reaction or a physics experiment.
So most of the evidence comes from
Eyewitness accounts. And while compelling in the rigorous framework of the scientific method, testimony is inherently subjective. It's not considered scientific proof on its own.
science needs objectivity, repeatability.
Verifiability by independent observers. Something UAP encounters rarely, if ever, offer in a clean, unambiguous way.
So what does this all mean in practical terms for scientific inquiry? It means the scientific method's reliance on reproducibility and falsifiability, being able to recreate and test something or prove a hypothesis wrong, is profoundly challenged by UAPs.
They don't play by our scientific rules, essentially.
Pretty much. And while radar measurements and photographic evidence do exist, their interpretation is often highly contested. There's always room for doubt, even for people who genuinely want answers.
Like the Belgian UFO wave example.
Exactly. Our sources note that in 1990, an astounding 13,500 people observed these triangular objects. 2,600 written statements were collected. There was even radar data corroborating some sightings.
Sounds pretty compelling. Lots of witnesses, technical data.
You'd think so. Yet there's still no definitive scientific consensus. Why? Because some later analyses of the radar data suggested that even an F-16's own radar might have mistakenly locked onto another F-16 in some instances, creating ambiguity.
So potential misinterpretation of the sensor data.
Right, and similarly with photos, like the famous Trent photos from Oregon, there's this constant frustrating debate. If a photo is blurry, it's dismissed as anything, or a bird.
And if it's sharp and clear,
It's immediately dismissed as a hoax, or, oh, that's just a known object to catch 22.
That raises a really important question for all of us, for you listening. How do we as a society and as individuals process information that just doesn't fit neatly into our established scientific boxes?
How do we tell what's truly unexplained versus what's just unidentified because we lack enough good data?
It truly highlights the paradox. Even when a significant percentage of UAP observations are deemed quality cases and remain unexplained, one source mentioned 22% from a large list, they don't automatically translate into universally accepted scientific proof.
It's not saying they aren't real.
No, not at all. But the nature of these observations makes them incredibly difficult to investigate using our traditional scientific methods. It forces us to confront the limits of our scientific toolkit when facing something inherently uncontrollable and elusive.
There's a huge gap between someone saying, I saw something amazing, and having repeatable, verifiable data you can analyze in a lab.
A gap that's proven very hard to bridge.
Okay, let's unpack this further and dive into the heart of the matter for many people. The extraterrestrial hypothesis itself, the ETH.
The idea that these are craft from other worlds.
For a significant number of proponents, if UAP behavior consistently defies all known human technology and all known natural phenomena, then the ETH becomes, as some argue, the only possible explanation left.
It's an argument by elimination.
Kind of. They contend that with tens of thousands of sightings globally, many with multiple witnesses, consistent patterns observed over decades, even military radar corroboration sometimes, the probability that none of these are genuine unknown phenomena of an advanced nature becomes Absurdly small.
So the sheer volume and consistency of reports are key to their argument.
Yes, if it's clearly not natural and it's demonstrably not human-made based on the observed capabilities, then what else is left out there in the vastness of the universe? That's the question they pose.
And zooming out, the psychological impact of highly credible witnesses coming forward, well, you can't just ignore that.
Pilots, military personnel, air traffic controllers.
People who are trained observers, often risking their careers, their reputations, maybe even their mental well-being by reporting these things. For them to do so suggests a profound, often unsettling conviction in what they saw.
And when you consider those reported characteristics like objects potentially disabling weapons systems near nuclear sites, proponents argue these aren't just random events.
They see intelligently controlled objects exhibiting capabilities far beyond our current grasp.
Which leads to that fascinating speculative question you touched on earlier.
Right. If extraterrestrials can achieve such feats interstellar travel, defying known physics, maybe through a totally different understanding of space-time, perhaps an extension of Einsteinian physics.
Or even using something like quantum entanglement principles for communication or propulsion.
Then what does this imply about the limitations of our own scientific understanding? It suggests a universe far more complex, maybe far stranger, and certainly more technologically advanced than we currently grasp.
It could be quite humbling, realizing how little we might actually know about the fundamental laws of reality.
Exactly. The real insight here might not be if they're visiting, but what their potential capabilities could reveal about the true nature of the cosmos itself.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because while some believe the evidence for the ETH is overwhelming, or at least highly suggestive,
Others remain entirely unconvinced.
right, they point to significant gaps in the data. So what's the counterargument from the skeptical stance?
Well, skeptics often highlight a fundamental lack of hard data. That's the recurring theme.
Meaning?
No clear, unassailable photos. No verifiable artifacts like a piece of alien metal that can be independently analyzed and proven non-terrestrial. No controlled, repeatable measurements that stand up to rigorous scientific scrutiny.
So lots of stories, but no definitive physical proof.
Pretty much. They emphasize that while witness testimony is incredibly numerous and often emotionally compelling, it's inherently subjective. It's prone to human error, memory distortion, imagination, or even, unfortunately, outright fabrication sometimes.
Our brains try to make sense of things, even if the information is incomplete or confusing.
Exactly. We fill in the blanks, sometimes incorrectly.
And if we place this in a broader scientific context,
The skeptical argument is quite robust from that perspective. As our sources remind us, the universe is large, very large, and empty.
the distances are mind-boggling.
Immense. Based on our current understanding of physics, interstellar travel seems extraordinarily unlikely without some kind of breakthrough propulsion or understanding of physics that completely rewrites the rulebook.
And official scientific bodies, like NASA?
Well, the official FAQ from NASA astrobiologists, for instance, explicitly states, no evidence for visits of intelligent aliens to Earth. They add that photos are mostly fakes or misidentifications, and there's no tangible scientific evidence.
That's a pretty clear stance.
It is, and they even highlight a point that often goes unnoticed. Amateur astronomers, people who are sky watchers by nature, spending countless hours observing the heavens with powerful telescopes.
You'd think they'd be seeing these things all the time if they were common.
That's the argument. Skeptics point out that this community generally does not report UFO sightings with any regularity. For some, this absence of reports from dedicated sky observers is a powerful counterindicator.
Now, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
Correct. That's a logical fallacy science tries to avoid. But in science, extraordinary claims do require positive proof that can be independently verified. And skeptics argue that proof is still missing for ETH.
They also argue that many UAPs do get identified eventually, right?
Yes. Many are eventually explained as conventional things: planes, drones, satellites, weather balloons, unusual atmospheric conditions like upper atmospheric lightning or ice crystals. The implication being that the remaining unexplained cases might also have mundane explanations if we just had more data or a better understanding of natural phenomena we don't fully grasp yet.
Okay, and beyond the extraterrestrial hypothesis, our sources discuss other alternative explanations for UAPs. It's not just aliens or nothing.
Right. The unexplained doesn't automatically equate to aliens. There are other possibilities to consider.
Like what? Natural phenomena.
Yes, things not fully understood, like ball lightning. It's a rare, often spherical, luminous atmospheric electrical event. Though even our sources admit scientific data on natural ball lightning are scarce, so there's still mystery there too.
What about human technology? Secret projects.
That's a persistent possibility. Advanced prototypes, stealth aircraft we don't know about, reconnaissance drones operating outside the public eye. Given the history of secret military projects, it's not entirely implausible.
And then there are the more out there ideas.
Indeed. You get into more speculative territory, like interdimensional beings, entities not from another planet, but maybe another dimension overlapping ours,
Wow, okay.
or even a connection to the human collective unconscious. An idea explored by figures like the psychologist Carl Jung and ufologist Jacques Vallée.
Suggesting sightings might be more like psychological projections, archetypal manifestations rather than physical craft.
That's the gist of that line of thinking. Highly speculative, of course, but part of the wider conversation attempting to explain these persistent, strange reports.
What's fascinating here is how this persistent lack of definitive, universally accepted answers can act as a kind of fringe magnet, can't it?
It absolutely can. It draws in a wide spectrum of ideas, and some of them become, well, bizarre conspiracy theories.
Like what kind of theories?
We're talking about claims like reptilian aliens secretly working with governments to control humanity, or that strange cloud formations are actually chemtrails, part of a secret spraying program, or that the HARP research facility is controlling the weather or mines. Things that lack credible evidence but gain traction in certain communities.
And this environment, unfortunately, also attracts charlatans, right? People exploiting the mystery.
Yes, people who prey on curiosity or desperation for answers. And as our sources point out, this whole circus actively discredits serious inquiry into the actual UAP phenomenon. It makes the terrain for genuine research incredibly rough.
It muddies the waters.
It raises a really important question for you, the listener. How do we distinguish between genuine mystery, a truly unexplained phenomenon that deserves study and speculative fantasy, when concrete, verifiable evidence is so scarce?
It's tough. Consider cases like Billy Meyer, the Swiss contactee.
Meyer. He provided a huge amount of supposed evidence over decades.
Photos, videos, metal samples, sound recordings, witness statements, predictions, prophecies. The works.
Yet, even with all that material, the case is met with widespread skepticism. Many analyses of his photos suggest models, his videos show inconsistencies, and his metal samples, when tested, have been found to contain nothing provably alien. Some were even shown to be easily replicable with ordinary tools.
So even abundant evidence isn't always convincing.
It highlights the human tendency to believe or disbelieve, based often on our pre-existing worldviews, which profoundly shapes what we accept as fact, regardless of the evidence presented.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's move away from the "are they real" question for a moment and explore something equally fascinating. The rich tapestry of alien races that have permeated popular culture and alleged encounter accounts.
Ah, the alien bestiary.
Exactly. Setting aside their objective reality, it's incredibly insightful to explore where these ideas come from and what they might tell us about ourselves.
Our sources used an AI-generated list, right,
Yeah.
as a sort of cultural barometer.
Yes, and that's a powerful way to look at it. The AI provides a snapshot of our collective imagination regarding extraterrestrial life.
What's fascinating here is that the AI, by its very nature, acts as a mirror. It reflects our own collective human narratives and archetypes about ET life.
As one source points out, it simply spits out what it finds on the internet and does not filter truth from whatever else.
It's all about popularity and consistency of information it finds online. It's not making judgments about reality.
So these descriptions, while they might completely lack scientific backing or objective proof,
They tell us a tremendous amount about us, our hopes, our fears, our anxieties, and how we tend to categorize and personify the unknown.
it's less about validating alien species.
And more about understanding the deep wellspring of human imagination and our ongoing desire to make sense of the cosmos. These narratives often draw heavily on existing folklore, religious traditions, science fiction tropes, creating a kind of modern mythology.
And what a rich tapestry it is. The AI compiled a list of several prominent alleged alien races, descriptions you've likely encountered somewhere. Let's start with the one that's probably most familiar, the one dominating many abduction narratives,
The Greys.
the Greys. Tell us about their typical description.
Okay, so the Greys are consistently described across thousands of accounts as small humanoid beings, typically 3 to 4 feet tall. They have disproportionately large, bald heads, large, almond-shaped, completely black eyes, very striking.
And gray skin. hence the name.
Exactly. Smooth, gray skin, often with tiny mouths, nostrils, sometimes no visible ears. Their behavior is overwhelmingly associated with abductions and what are described as medical experiments.
Often in sterile clinical environments inside craft.
That's the common report. The alleged motive often centers on genetic experimentation and hybridization.
Why? What's the supposed goal?
Theories vary. Sometimes it's suggested they need to revitalize their own dying race by integrating human genetic material or DNA. Other times it's proposed they're studying human emotions and consciousness, things they supposedly lack.
And where are they said to come from?
The Zeta Reticuli star system is widely cited, a binary star system visible in the southern sky. They're linked to the classic saucer-shaped craft, often noted for emitting no noise, moving with remarkable silence and speed.
And the Roswell incident in 47, that's often linked to them, right?
It's the foundational event often attributed to the Greys, yes. And consistent sightings and abduction accounts have been reported since the 1940s, often around military installations, interestingly.
How do they communicate?
Generally described as telepathic, capable of conveying thoughts and images directly into a human mind without speech. Culturally, their image is deeply ingrained, sometimes connected to ancient astronaut theories suggesting past interactions.
Okay, next up, a truly unsettling portrayal that fuels a lot of conspiracy theories. The reptilians.
Ah, yes, the lizard people.
Describe them.
These beings are depicted with green or brown scaly skin, sharp claws, sometimes pronounced reptilian features like vertical pupils, maybe even tails. They're often described as quite tall, around 6 to 7 feet.
And their alleged motives. Not so nice.
Generally far more nefarious and sinister than the Greys. Their narrative involves deep-seated manipulation or outright control of human societies.
The whole secret rulers idea.
Exactly. Elaborate conspiracy theories claim they've infiltrated human governments, financial institutions, entertainment industries, secretly pulling the strings of world events, popularized by figures like David Icke.
Where do these theories say they come from?
It varies. Some say they originated here on Earth, living in vast underground bases. Others point to the Draco star system, portraying them as an ancient imperialistic race,
And their ships?
often described as large, dark, triangular craft, which intriguingly matches some modern UAP sightings reported by military sources.
Culturally, where does this image come from? It seems ancient.
It does. Their presence is found not just in modern conspiracies, but also, fascinatingly, in ancient mythologies worldwide that describe serpent-like gods or powerful reptilian beings. Some interpret these ancient accounts as early encounters, reflecting maybe a primal human fear or archetype of the serpent.
Then we have a category that often portrays a more benevolent presence, or at least less overtly threatening. The Nordics and Pleiadians.
Right. These are often intertwined, the Space Brothers archetype in some ways.
Describe the Nordics.
Consistently described as tall, very human-like, almost idealized humans, striking blonde hair, blue eyes, resembling Scandinavian people. They often radiate an aura of calm, wisdom, and beauty.
And the Pleiadians?
Similar. Humanoid, often linked to the Nordics in appearance and demeanor. Their focus is said to be on spiritual enlightenment, peace, acting as benevolent guides wanting to help humanity's upliftment.
Where are they supposedly from?
The Pleiades star cluster is the most common origin cited, but other systems like Vega and Arcturus are sometimes mentioned too. Suggests a widespread advanced civilization.
What about their craft?
Reported UFO types vary, sometimes classic disc-shaped craft, but also light ships or glowing orbs, hinting at maybe a more ethereal or energy-based technology.
How do they interact with humans?
Often described as positive interactions, sometimes direct telepathy, like the Greys, or through channeling via specific human contactees who claim to receive messages. Think George Adamski back in the day, though his Venusians were described a bit differently.
They feature heavily in New Age beliefs, don't they?
Very much so. Seen as spiritual guides, teachers, sometimes linked to angelic descriptions, or even figures from ancient mythologies like ancient Egypt.
There was an interesting note in one source about them potentially hiding their true origin.
Yeah, a Reddit comment speculated that Nordics might have initially claimed to be from Venus, like the alleged contactee Valiant Thor, who supposedly met with Eisenhower specifically because they didn't want humans to know their true, more distant home system.
A kind of strategic deception for our own good.
Perhaps. To avoid overwhelming us with the true scale of interstellar travel or their civilization, it suggests a calculated approach to disclosure if you buy into that narrative.
Okay, moving to ancient claims revitalized in modern interpretations.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki.
Ah, the Sumerian connection. Zechariah Sitchin's territory.
What's their description?
Generally, powerful humanoid beings, often with a large build, sometimes depicted as giants compared to humans in ancient carvings.
And their alleged motive is... Well, it sounds a bit odd.
It does on the surface. The popular theory is they came to Earth to mine gold.
Which prompts the immediate question. Why? What for? Interstellar bling.
Exactly. As one Reddit commenter hilariously put it, what are they going to do? Buy stuff with it. But believe it or not, there's a counter-argument presented within the sources that sounds surprisingly practical in a sci-fi way.
Go on.
The gold was allegedly needed to micronize it, grind it into a superfine dust, and then float it in the atmosphere of their home planet.
To do what?
To fix a critical atmospheric or temperature problem, essentially acting as a reflective shield against solar radiation or to retain heat. And intriguingly, some scientists have actually stated that the concept of using aerosols to modify a planetary atmosphere is theoretically feasible.
Wow. Okay, less ridiculous than it first sounds, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. The Anunnaki are strongly tied to ancient Sumerian and Mesopotamian religions, where they were clearly seen as gods or divine beings who interacted with humanity, possibly giving knowledge, maybe even involved in genetic manipulation, according to Sitchin's interpretations.
And their symbol.
The winged disc is prominently associated with them, found all over ancient Near Eastern iconography. It directly links them to early human history and belief systems.
And finally, among the more prominent types, we have the tall whites.
Right. These gain notoriety largely through the alleged testimonies of Charles Hall, a former U.S. Air Force serviceman.
Describe them.
Very tall, as the name suggests, up to 7 to 8 feet. They have pale, almost translucent skin, often large blue eyes, thin bodies.
And their demeanor.
Accounts generally portray them as peaceful, highly intelligent. Some accounts, like Hall's, suggest a long-standing collaboration with human governments, particularly the U.S. military, possibly based out of areas like Nellis Air Force Base.
What's their supposed role?
Sometimes speculated as overseeing other races' experiments on Earth, perhaps acting as intermediaries or advisors. Their craft are typically described as large, sleek, silvery, disc-like, or cigar-shaped. Communication is said to be primarily telepathic.
Beyond these more consistently described races, the AI list also touched on a broader spectrum, right? Less detailed accounts.
Yes, showcasing the sheer variety of reported entities. You get mentions of Orions, whose motives vary wildly in different accounts, sometimes benevolent teachers, sometimes malevolent enslavers tied to the reptilians.
Who else?
The Blacks, often described as enigmatic, dark-skinned humanoids with unclear motives, sometimes associated with Men in Black-type phenomena. The Shadows, ominous, ill-defined figures often linked to negative, fear-inducing experiences, perhaps more paranormal than extraterrestrial.
And the ant people. That sounds unique.
Very much so. These are humanoid ant or insectoid beings primarily featured in Native American Hopi legends. Interestingly, they're portrayed positively as helpful, protective beings who offered refuge to the Hopi during ancient cataclysms by taking them underground.
So what does this whole diverse spectrum of alleged alien races mean for understanding extraterrestrial life, realistically?
Well, this raises that important question again. While these descriptions are endlessly fascinating and they fuel countless hours of discussion, debate, and storytelling, they are, in essence, primarily cultural constructs.
Meaning they reflect us more than them.
Largely, yes. As the AI itself and commentators on its output clarify, these are compilations of popular and often repeated information that does not filter truth from whatever else. They are incredibly detailed reflections of human imagination, our collective fears, our profound hopes about what might be out there.
They tap into archetypes.
Definitely. The wise elder, Nordics, the terrifying monster, reptilians, the inscrutable scientist, Greys, the benevolent guardian, Pleiadians, ant people. They highlight our human tendency to categorize and personify the unknown, drawing heavily on existing folklore, religious figures, and especially the narratives woven by decades of science fiction.
So they reflect our stories about them, rather than validated scientific data about actual encountered species.
That seems to be the most grounded interpretation based on the available evidence, or lack thereof. They're a fascinating study in modern myth-making.
Okay. You'd think if there was something truly extraordinary happening, verifiable contact, recovered craft, governments would be falling over themselves to tell us, wouldn't you?
That's a common assumption, isn't it? Openness seems logical.
But our sources paint a very different picture of the human element in this whole phenomenon, particularly concerning our worldviews and humanity's inherent resistance to radically new, potentially paradigm-shattering ideas.
The human factor, often the biggest variable.
The historical policy, particularly by powerful entities like the U.S. Air Force, seems to have been for a long time to actively ridicule the phenomenon.
Through official statements, reports designed to debunk.
Exactly. The Condon Report in 1969, which concluded there was nothing of scientific interest in UFOs, is seen by many critics not as objective science, but as a strategic, politically motivated move.
To do what?
To get the Air Force out of the messy business of public UFO investigations, basically, to reduce public concern and media attention.
So managed dismissal rather than open inquiry.
That's the argument. And proponents suggest governments might have initially suppressed information for several reasons. One obvious one is technological advantage, especially during the Cold War.
If you recovered alien tech, you wouldn't want your adversaries to know, let alone get their hands on it.
Makes sense. Another reason often cited is panic prevention. Fear of how the general public would react to confirmed alien presence.
Societal breakdown, mass hysteria, the stuff of disaster movies.
And perhaps most profoundly, they likely worried about the vast political, social, and religious implications.
That's huge. Imagine the impact on every major world religion if undeniable proof of advanced non-human intelligence emerged.
It would challenge core tenets for many, or the profound questions it would raise about our identity, our uniqueness, our place in the cosmos if we knew we weren't alone, and maybe not even particularly special.
And zooming out, this is precisely where human psychology really kicks in, creating layers of resistance far beyond just potential government secrecy. It's about how deeply ingrained our individual and collective worldviews are.
We don't like having our fundamental beliefs shaken.
Not at all. Our sources highlight that people collectively have great difficulty adapting their worldview to new knowledge and insights. It often takes centuries for radically new ideas to achieve widespread acceptance, even when backed by strong evidence.
Like what kind of ideas?
Well, think about the theory of evolution. Despite being a 150-year-old idea with mountains of evidence, one source notes it's still accepted by only a minority globally. Think about germ theory. It took decades for doctors to accept hand washing, fighting against established practices. Or plate tectonics, initially ridiculed before becoming geological orthodoxy.
So big shifts in understanding take time and face resistance.
Immense resistance. And UFOs, or the potential for extraterrestrial visitation, directly clash with people's worldviews. This is true from many religious perspectives rooted in anthropocentric creation stories, but also, interestingly, even for those in what some sources called the Dawkins camp.
Meaning strong scientific materialists.
Essentially, yes. Individuals with a very strong scientific materialist perspective who, quite reasonably from their viewpoint, find little room for phenomena that appear to defy established physics and lack current empirical, repeatable proof.
So what does this resistance mean for researchers or people trying to share information in this field?
It means there's a profound disincentive for mainstream scientists and institutions to openly engage with UAP research. There's a great quote in the source material. A bit ahead of your time brings honor, but far ahead brings the opposite.
The ridicule factor.
Exactly. People like astronomer J. Allen Hynek, even after he shifted perspective, found his colleagues reluctant to even discuss their own UAP sightings informally, let alone officially. They feared professional repercussions.
And that survey by Peter Sturrock.
Yes, the physicist Peter Sturrock surveyed astronomers, and those who had observed strange phenomena openly admitted they fear ridicule from other scientists and the press.
So this deep-seated resistance to paradigm shifts, this fear of being labeled pseudoscientific or fringe.
It contributes significantly to why, despite decades of sightings, increasing government acknowledgement of UAPs, and alleged insider knowledge, mainstream science still knows nothing about it and doesn't take it seriously, at least not openly and collectively. The social pressure within academia to conform is immense.
This creates an incredibly challenging environment then, especially for individual researchers or potential whistleblowers who step outside those established boundaries.
Absolutely. Individuals like Cohen Vermeer and the author of that book we mentioned, despite his solid academic background as an aeronautical engineer, faced significant commotion, personal attacks, and huge professional pressure when he tried to discuss UFOs from a scientific standpoint within his institutional role.
His critics argued he was damaging serious inquiry.
Yes, essentially shooting the messenger because the message itself was too unsettling or didn't fit the accepted narrative. And our sources suggest the broader UFO community has struggled immensely to communicate effectively with the public, government, or mainstream media,
Why is that?
often because it lacks a unified, consistently credible voice. It frequently relies on anecdotal evidence, which science is wary of, and sometimes, let's be honest, it allows itself to be associated with more outlandish theories, which unfortunately leads to the entire field being perceived as pseudo-scientific by many outsiders.
That raises an important question for all of us listening, doesn't it? How much does this existing societal resistance, fueled by skepticism and often a discrediting media landscape, actually influence the perceived truth of a claim?
Even if the claim is put forth by seemingly credible individuals with compelling observations or experiences, it's a critical point.
Exactly. Look at the position of whistleblowers, for example. It highlights this bias perfectly.
How
If someone comes forward about, say, government surveillance or financial corruption, things generally accepted as possible. They're often hailed as heroes. Their stories are widely reported, investigated.
Right, they fit within an accepted framework of potential wrongdoing.
But if someone comes forward with claims about UAPs, crash saucers, alleged alien encounters, what happens?
They're often immediately dismissed as fantasists or liars, as one commentator noted. Their claims might be completely ignored by the press or actively ridiculed.
It suggests that the perceived truth of a claim can be heavily influenced not just by the evidence presented, but by the existing public consensus, by media gatekeeping, and by the cultural filters we all apply.
It's a striking paradox. The formal top-secret cover-up in the old sense might even be largely blown by now.
Yeah.
We have declassified government documents, official Pentagon reports acknowledging UAPs.
The information is out there to some extent.
Yes, but due to public apathy, the topic's historically discredited status. And those deeply ingrained worldview filters, whether they're religious, scientific, materialist, or just general discomfort with the unknown, the information struggles to gain significant traction or widespread acceptance.
It just doesn't fit the comfortable narrative most people operate with day to day.
Exactly. It remains stuck in a kind of limbo.
We've certainly journeyed through a lot today. From the mysteries of unidentified aerial phenomena, their perplexing characteristics that seem to defy our known physics,
To that intricate, often bizarre tapestry of alleged alien races that populate our cultural imagination.
and finally exploring the profound psychological and societal hurdles humanity faces in truly confronting the unknown, the unexplained.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is that regardless of whether you ultimately believe in extraterrestrial visitation or not, the very phenomena of UAPs and the rich narratives surrounding alien races reveal something fundamental about us as humans.
What do they reveal?
They reveal a deep human need to understand our place in the cosmos, a need to grapple with the limits of our current scientific knowledge, and a need to confront ideas that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about reality and our own significance within it.
These stories, whether they turn out to be fact or fiction,
They're incredibly powerful reflections of our collective hopes, our deepest fears, and our ceaseless, ongoing quest for meaning in a vast universe.
and as you, our listener, reflect on all of this, maybe consider this final provocative thought. And still a big if for science, but if indeed there are beings or phenomena beyond our current comprehension visiting Earth, perhaps interacting with us subtly or overtly, maybe even for centuries, how prepared are we?
And not just technologically prepared, right? Not just can we communicate or defend ourselves.
No, more profoundly, how prepared are we psychologically and culturally? Could we truly integrate such a reality into our collective consciousness without fracturing?
Would our societies hold? Would our religions adapt or crumble? Would our very sense of identity be utterly transformed?
Maybe the greatest deep dive isn't just into the skies, or into grainy photos and ambiguous radar returns.
Perhaps it's into our own minds, into the deeply entrenched paradigms, the belief systems, the biases that shape what we are willing to see, what we are willing to believe, and what we instinctively push away because it's too uncomfortable or too strange.
So we encourage you to consider, how does your own worldview impact what you perceive as plausible or factual when you encounter information like this, information that challenges the status quo?
What are you truly willing to consider? What are your personal boundaries of belief? And maybe more importantly, why do those boundaries exist where they do? It's a question worth pondering long after this deep dive ends.